Hey everyone, I'm back with some more redesigns of the... Oh god, that background, it's so bright. How have you guys been able to stare at that white void this whole time? Here, let's change that. That's better. Hey everyone, I'm back with some more redesigns of the Sonic cast. This time I'm going over the Chaotix, as a lot of you have requested them. That's right, it's the Team Chaotix special, everyone. And just gonna throw Mighty in there as well. I mean, he was in the original Chaotix game. But yeah, this is going to be the first character I'm doing that isn't really associated with the modern cast, so I'm really excited to show off what he's like. And again, if you're wondering why I'm redesigning these characters or what my thought process is on redesigning a character in general, I would recommend watching the first two parts if you haven't already. Or don't. I mean, I'm not your parents. What am I gonna make you do? Clean your room? Brush your teeth? Overtake the monarchy? But before I get into the designs, there's something I want to mention regarding the last part. You see, when I was talking about Shadow's eyes and how they're always locked in this mad expression due to how they're modeled, I offered the solution that they should have a proper facial rig so they can make expressions such as being worried or surprised without it looking awkward or stilted. And then I just failed to show that by drawing him with the same expression anyways. I should have really made an emotion chart to better clarify what I meant, so here's one I made of Sonic. See how his eyebrows curve and form into how he's feeling rather than just being static? Like when he's angry, he gets that little point in the corner of his eyes, much like Shadow. But when he's surprised, his eyebrows are fully rounded out. And this would go the same for Shadow and all the other characters. I just really hope the game models take some pointers from Prime in terms of character animation, but that could be a whole video on its own. Anyway, I decided to focus on the Chaotix this time around as I really love them as characters, except for you little shit, but I'll get to you later. And I feel like they don't get as much focus as the other characters, so I wanted to give them some time to shine. So without going on any longer, let's get into the designs, starting off with the leader of the team that loves the green, Vector. As you can see, not a whole lot has changed with him because I mostly like his design already. Notice how I say mostly though. My main problem with him is the bottom half of his body. I can't really explain it, but it just looks so awkward to me. Maybe it's how his tail goes lower than his legs, combined with how short his tail is in general. Just, I don't know. It's always bothered me for some reason, so I try to fix that with my design. Now he has a thinner waist with a longer tail that's able to stand up more. This gives him more room in between his legs, so he's not dragging his tail all the time. You know what? I just realized why it bothers me so much. Here, put a sensor right there and boom. Now you can't see it. You're welcome. But yeah, I definitely think tweaking just these proportions make him look so much better. In his normal design, with how his tail is proportioned, it makes it look really jarring whenever he walks. Like they made it to where his feet go way out so they don't clip into his tail, but it just looks like he's on his way to tell his mom that he just shit his pants. So I feel like this change will help with that problem and will actually make it to where you can pose him more dynamically. Some of the smaller details I changed are that I made his tongue end at a point, his spikes are bent back instead of sticking straight out, and I made his shoes slightly different to match with the more sharp and edgy look I was going towards him. A huge inspiration for a lot of the decisions I made were from this piece by Nicola Saviori. God, I hope I pronounced that name right. And if you think this art style looks familiar, it's because she was the character artist for Crash 4 It's About Time. And this was commissioned by Keith Silverstein, who is the current voice actor for Vector in the games. I just thought that was a really cool bit of trivia, and I wanted to bring it up because my god, this art is amazing. I love the Crash 4 art style, and she knocked it out of the park transitioning him into it, and again served as heavy inspiration of how I wanted to make my Vector look. I would love to see the other Sonic characters in the Crash 4 art style, but anyway, before I get into that tangent, yeah, this is my design for Vector. Just some slight changes in order to make him a lot more sleek, while also making some parts have a slight edge to make him feel rougher like the big old croc he's supposed to be.
Interior crocodile alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater.
Now, onto the ninja who's swift with his feet, but not so with his poems, Espio. Much like Vector, I actually really like Espio's design. There's just some little nitpicks that I'd like to change. First off, I gave him a belt that has a strap going over his shoulder to carry ninja stars and other types of weapons. I gave him that so it would further communicate that he's, well, you know, a ninja, as nothing in his base design does that, except maybe for these straps that are on his cuffs. But I feel like this does a better job of showing off what he is, without him even having to say a single word. Other than that, some of the smaller changes I made are that his tail is thicker and longer, so it would have this nice swirl at the end, rather than this little spindle he has now. He's a darker shade of pink to where it's almost purple. I just hate how bright of a pink he is. And the back of his spines are larger and noticeably differ in size as they go down, rather than just them looking all the same on his base model. And that's about it. Again, I just mostly wanted to emphasize more of what he does and fix some minor things that I'm not a huge fan of. But overall, his base design is already pretty good, so I don't want to change too much, you know? Don't fix what ain't broke. However, the same can't be said about the next character we're going to go over. So, here we go. My most hated character in the franchise, Charmy. You know what? Before I even show off his design, I just have to say this bee. I mean, if you could even call him that. He looks like a rabbit in a bee costume, no thanks to this nose he has. Seriously, why did they give him a nose in the first place? Last I checked, bees don't have a nose, so why give your only bug character something that they don't have? That's like if I were to give Espio big old Mickey Mouse ears. I mean, screw it, might as well give him the ears already. He looks like a rat after all. It'll fill out that bald head of his. Oh wait, that's not his head, that's a helmet. Yeah, they decided it was a good idea to make his helmet the same color as his head, with the edge of it looking like his goddamn eyebrows. Seriously, in some instances in renders and merchandise, it just looks like his whole head. And speaking of weird color choices, why make his mouth and arms tan? I mean, I know Sonic's arms are like that, but there, it actually fits with his color palette. Here, it's just weird. Again, it just makes him look more like a mouse. And probably the most iconic color a bee is known for, that being yellow, is just so underplayed in his design, with them focusing more on an orange for some reason. Christ, I mean, they made the other two members of the Chaotix look like their respective animals, but why not Charmy? And you can't even see his stinger in any of the official renders because it's so small. Jesus, this design! So anyway, here's my redesign of him. First off, I have to give a huge shout out to Redesigning on Twitter that made this design of Charmy. Again, it served as a huge inspiration. This art is amazing, and it does everything I wish they could have done with Charmy in the first place. But I still wanted to put my own spin on it, and make him fit with the modern art style. So here, I made him actually look like a bee by getting rid of that stupid nose and putting more emphasis on the yellow into his color scheme, such as around his eyes, mouth, and shoes. In turn, I had to give him different colored eyes to contrast with the yellow, so they're a light green now. I gave him longer antennas as well as larger wings and a stinger so they're more prominent. And finally, I gave him an outfit that uses a different color palette so it stands out more, as well as making him look like a little aviator pilot. I mean, he is their eyes in the sky after all. I feel like since he's a little kid, he would pretend to be a plane when he's flying around and trying to track down or fight someone. He would act like an aviator pilot and use all these code words, and no one would understand what the hell he's talking about, except of course for Vector and Espio because they hang out with him so much. I don't know, I just thought that would be a nice character trait instead of his usual personality, that being annoying. And I know I'm ripping into him pretty hard, and I mean no disrespect by any means to people that genuinely like Charmy and his design. I just personally think this overhauled look is a lot more clear on what he's supposed to be, while still maintaining the design traits that Sonic characters usually have, so he still fits in with the rest of the cast. This is one of my favorite redesigns I've done so far, and like the last two parts, if I could only really pick one out of the 4 I've done, this time around, I'd pick Charmy. He definitely needs it the most. Now for the last redesign of the video, this is a character that has been mostly dormant in the modern cast, which is Mighty. Like I said before, Mighty isn't really a part of the modern cast, only really being represented in the classic style of the franchise as of late. I mean, we've seen what he could possibly look like in the modern style from the Archie comics, but those are their own separate continuity and were handled by different people outside of Sega that made some, let's just say, interesting decisions. So it's not really known if that's how Sega would design him from his classic look. Not to say it's a bad design by any means, I actually took some cues from it, as you'll soon see, but these are some things I don't think they would have done to him, like his boots or that blue bandana on his arm. I'm treating this as if they were updating him like the other characters in Sonic Adventure, where a lot of the time they just took the classic designs and made them more sleek and lankier, but still being subtle with the changes. So with that in mind, of course I made him taller and thinner than his classic interpretation. And he has colored eyes that contrast with the rest of his color palette. Like the Archie comics, I like the type of gloves they gave him, so I made some similar looking ones, just more simplified, and gave him different shoes that match. However, I still wanted to give a nod to his classic design by still including the white strips on his shoes. And lastly, I gave him a longer snout and tail, as those are both traits that armadillos carry. I feel like giving him the long snout like Knuckles is better than just giving him Sonic's mouth with a super sharp triangle nose. But at least that makes more sense than some characters. Okay. I'll stop with Charmy. I've said the word nose so many times now, it just sounds weird to me. But yeah, there's my redesign for Mighty. Again, I wanted to keep it simple like how they did with the other characters when transitioning them from the classic era to adventure. And I really like how he turned out. And there we have it. The Chaotix team is done. Now to add them to the lineup. Jesus, I'm running out of room. Maybe in the future I'll just show how they line up with Sonic, so there's not a million characters on the screen. Again, this was super fun to do. I always love putting my little spin on these characters. Drawing is something I really love to do, and it just makes me so happy that a lot of people come to watch my little doodles. I love reading your comments that show all your support. It's reading those comments that give me the motivation to keep making content like this. And I want to apologize for the long time between uploads. I would love to have a consistent and fast upload schedule. It's just hard with my job and other events going on in my life. I don't have a lot of time to devote into making videos, but whenever I have the free time, I always try to work on them as much as I can. So, at the risk of sounding like every YouTuber ever, if you really do like my content and want to see more at a faster rate, leave a like, share the video, and subscribe. It really does help a lot, but again, only if you want to. I would never want to force anyone to do something they don't want to. And if you mostly watch this channel for the redesign videos, that's fine and all. But if you want something else to watch in the meantime while waiting for the next part, I got other videos in my catalog that, if you like drawing or art in general, might pique of some interest. I got a how to draw series going on where I go over how I draw the Sonic characters, as well as little animatics if you want to check them out. But again, only if you want to, as these redesign videos take the longest to make out of all the content on my channel. So if you're looking for some more stuff to watch, there you go. And with that said, thank you all so much for watching the video. I'm Danspex, and I'll catch you later. Have a good one.